I know you do a lot of stuff with movement prep, and I don't like using necessarily the term functional movement because a lot of people have different definitions there. But how important is taking athletes through, especially basketball players, through different movement patterns other than just the sagittal plane? I mean, how important are the frontal plane and transverse plane in your program?
Rob, you just said a key statement is that the term functional training could be really bastardized in our field. You know, how you view functional training. When I think of function, you look at what the task is that the athlete has to perform. Obviously, breaking down the game of basketball, what patterns do they actually run in? Do they always run straight ahead? Do they crossover run? When do they backpedal? Examining different movements that the closeout, the ability to guard the ball would be more of a lateral frontal plane movement. The plan that you develop as a coach would be functionally sound to the game. Hence, you would develop programs that you would train to the game. Some sports require more movement patterns in the frontal plane, some more in the sagittal plane. But then examining, we would call those, when we're looking at those movement patterns, we would call them transformational zones. How much range of motion would actually go into executing that movement, what speed, and then after loading into that transformational zone, how are you going to load out of it? So sometimes you can load into a movement pattern, into the sagittal plane, and then come out into the frontal plane. I think it's important that as coaches we're examining what the true functions to the game are. In traditional training, you know, the majority of the training was performed in sagittal plane, and we were getting strong, and that's where we got the name strength coaches. I think that strength coach has evolved tremendously since the inception to our business. You know, I think we have performance-driven coaches now. We all want to make an engineer a better athlete. And so if we're not examining what they do every day and designing programs that help them groove those movements, I would just throw the question out, how functionally dense is your program? And function means, you use the term sagittal plane. Well, how many sagittal plane movements, how many frontal plane movements, how many transverse plane movements, the three fundamental movements in functional training. And then putting those into a programming part where the kids can understand how to use their body weight correctly in those planes, and then enhancing them with dumbbells, sandbells, weight, pulley systems, enhancing them and then challenging them so they can really move through those patterns, what we would call the term clean, the ability to move clean, not move dirty.